All right, folks. Here's some hard copy of your project file. So those are also online, right? So a PDF. So sometimes if you need to zoom in, really zoom big, so I think you can use a PDF file. But if you just look at the general, this file should be good enough. Okay, let's first talk about schedule, right? Schedule. So hopefully you all enjoy the short, full break. So we are in week 10. We start to have a project, right? So the project, the term project actually I divided into two parts. So you are working now, you can work on part one. Roughly 3 weeks. My suggestion is if you take a look, what you expect to do is there's concrete, structural steel, and reinforcing. Right? So I will suggest you to, each week you get one part done. Right? I don't think you can, in any way, you can get it done in 1 week. There's no way. Right? Unless you decide that you're going to work 20 more hours a day. So to make your work manageable, I think it's very reasonable to divide it into 3 parts. First, you start working on the concrete part, right? We just finished that, right? The electric part. So you're just working on the concrete part. So next week you're working on the steel or reinforcing part, right? Next week you get everything done, right? So that's my suggestion. And just another precaution is make sure you have the backup oil pot, right? And sometimes you may have the bad luck, right? You lost a couple hours work, that's fine. But if you lost a couple days work, it's hard to get back. So that's my suggestion. Start early and also have the backup. So schedule-wise, we have 3 major topics left. Right? One topic is advanced wall, and the second one is the site, and including parking lot, landscaping, driveway, those type of stuff, right? And the last one is called mass, and the mass is when you create something very sophisticated in shape, right? Some of the very complex shape of building. Nothing is straight, right? Nothing is vertical, or that time we can use mass to create some of those highly customized stuff, like the fancy skyscrapers you saw in Dubai or somewhere in the world. Those are you can create in half hour, right? So using mass function, you can create those very fancy buildings. So that's I think after Thanksgiving, including the week 15, right? We pretty much let you working on your project and presentation. Questions?
I take it because the topics of final project doesn't involve any plumbing or electrical or anything like that.
So we do not cover that in this class, but we did offer in the last 2 years. We tried to offer the Game 2 class, right? That's cover the mechanical, plumbing, all this stuff. but there's not many interest. So each time we cannot get more than 10 person, so we couldn't offer the class. That's in the past, but I'm not sure the situation changed or not. But if you guys say, oh, we all want to take that success class, the second one, you talk to department, we may be able to fund, right? If we got enough student. But there's no plan to cover that in this class. We already covered a lot of it, right?
For the scale, 1/8 to 1 foot, is that just the default setting on Revit?
You mean the drawing?
Yeah, for the drawings, scale 1/8.
Uh,
Is 1 foot.
Rivet is always 1-to-1 scale. Let's say this way, right? So you never worry about the scale because you can zoom in, zoom out, right? There's no scale really, and only way you print, have the printing, then you need to think about scale, right? But before you start to print something, there's no scale on Rivet.
Okay.
Yeah. So that makes sense.
Yeah, it is, sir.
Yeah, because it's all real size, right? Only when you start to print, you need okay, what kind of scale I need to print, right? Yep. So when you draw things, you don't worry about scale, right? For example, I first set up my gray line, right? These are all the real size, right? Yeah, no worry about a scale. Okay, talk about schedule, right? And I see, your part 2 of your term project will cover architectural, wall and curtain wall, curtain window, some of those more fancier stuff, right? And for example, the brick, the wall, the different type style brick wall. Then you also gonna create your site, right? Site plan, driveway, parking, and bike rack, etc. So you're gonna do that on your part 2, right? So, but part 1 you focus on the structural part, right? All right. Let's start to talk about your some of the detail of your project. Let's see, this one is, all right, this should be the one. Your term project part 1, including 3 parts, right? Concrete, rebar, and structural steel. And first, let's take a look at the concrete part, right? It's hard to clearly just say concrete, without talking about rebar, but let's just focus on. I think the major part on concrete is the foundation, right? That's involved your S 1.1, right? If you take a look at the drawing set I gave you. S 1.1, right? Footing on the foundation plan. That is primarily about concrete footing and concrete wall, and some of those piers a little bit, right? Some of the pier, along the wall, along the perimeter, right? You can see some of the corner. So your job is to model this. You probably, if you take a look at, right, they're footing this. You may call this what kind of footing is this, right? Is a continuous footing or is a column footing? Or is both? Actually, we should say is both, right? And for example, this footing is a column footing, all right? Connect to some of those continuous footing. You probably also notice the continuous footing is not symmetrical, right? Like a typical one we did before, right? We add a footing underneath the wall, they're going to be automatically symmetrical, but this one is not, right? So you may be wondering how we create a asymmetrical footing, right? Now, actually, you probably didn't notice, in a property of your footing, there's always the one called eccentricity, right? Eccentricity, right? That is kind of an offset, right? Right or left. So use that one to define how, the shift distance, right? Between your center of the wall and the center of your footing, right? You can use that, define that to get pretty much that part done. Then I think you need to use join geometry to join those footing together. You can use the same way to join geometry between your pier, concrete pier, and concrete wall. You can use join geometry to join together, right? So that's the part I think you need a join geometry to join the continuous footing with your column footing, and join your column footing, with some of the continuous footing. Then you also join the wall with the pier, right? Because, right, you may be wondering how the pier connect to the wall. You use join geometry to join them, right? To join them. There are some separate, right? There are some separate column footing like this one, right? Okay. The reason I want to go through this one, I think, is that's probably going to save you quite some time. And then you have this, right? You can see the column footing and column, right? And this is a drive-through. This building is actually a bank, right? It's a credit union. You can go back to take a look at, right? And so I think, right, that's the building. And we used this one in the last couple of years. The reason we keep using this one is not because we worry about you're going to copy your previous year's student, but just give you a forewarning, right? Don't do that, right? So we can find out, because each project have your own signature, believe it or not. So there's nothing going to be. If I find something identical, so you're in trouble. So that I think the size is quite good. So when you start working on that, we could have a smaller one, but I think this size of this one is manageable at the same time challenging, right? And so that's why we keep using this one. I say that it's manageable at the same time it's challenging, right? So you have a lot of elements, and you can see the highly customized stuff, and a lot of elements, that's good for learning. So that's I think I couldn't find the driveway for that. There's probably no picture from other side. But you guys can go to take a look at, right, on the 17th Street, right, on the 17th Street. 17R or something, right? One thing is, I believe most of the time, let's say, if I spend 4 hours, I finish my concrete modeling, I probably half the time it probably is a plan reading, right? As you can see, first I have to understand what's on the plan, right? So basically, one thing here, try to save your time. Here is a step footing, right? In this section. This is step footing, and this is step footing. The reason they have this two step footing because there's a drop in the foundation of this area because the elevator, right? The elevator pit, you need to have a pit for the elevator, right? And so remember, on your first floor, you whatever basement, right? If your elevator floor is even with your basement floor, you need a deeper, right? Deeper pit. So that is actually a 4 feet deep elevator pit. That's why they drop, they drop the, all the footing to 4 feet they drop this one in 2 steps. You can see the reason, if you read the detail, you can see this area. Let me just get a better pen. Okay, cool. Yeah, I like this one. Okay, you can see this one, right, is 85.4, right? And that means majority of this one, you can see here too, right? 85.4, right? That means the majority of those footing is on the 85.4, right? And you can see here 85.4, and continue until you see this one, right? Until you see this SS line, right? You see there's some SS line, right? Here is one SS line, right? So this SS line, if you take a look at the notes over here, it represents, indicates steps in the foundation elevation, right? Of course, this flat indicates the footing elevation, right? You can see there's a SS line here, SS line here. That means there's just 2 steps, right? And then you can see S lines here, then there's another one here, right? So that means 2 step here drop, and then here actually, if you go this direction, is also drop, right? But that just tell you, from your elevation, footing elevation drop from 85.4 to 83.4. See that? Then you took another step, you drop to 81.4. That means each step you drop 2 feet, right? You drop 2 feet, and that means you're going to create a step footing over here, right? Step footing over here. So, and then you need to create a step footing over here too, right? Because, and this box is actually the elevator pit, right? This box, right? Okay, and raise from 81.4 to 83.4, then to 85.4, right? You can see majority of those, the footing top is 85.4, right? And another thing is you need to understand, when you do the rebar modeling, you need to understand some of the basics. For example, this one, right? Okay, and 14-inch wide cast in place concrete wall with number 5, 12-inch on center, each way, each face. Each way means you have horizontal, they have vertical, right? Each face, then you have exterior side, you have interior side, right? So basically you have the 2 sides have a mesh, right? Have the grid and with number 5, right? So that's help you to get some idea. And also you can see this, for example, this and grid beam, right? This grid beam over here, right? This grid beam, 12-inch wide, 4 feet deep, right? It's quite deep one, right? And concrete grid beam with 2 number 5 at both top and bottom, right? Then you have the number 4 stirrup and 24-inch on center, right? When you read that, you can actually, you should have a picture of what it looks like, right? The 2 top bar, 2 bottom bar number 5, right? Then you have a stirrup number 4, every 24-inch go that way, right? Along the direction of the wall, right? So that's something you need some, basic interpretation, right? This is majority of the concrete part. I think that's focused on that. If you go to the next page, right? Next page, pretty much. Right? Pretty much the same thing, but with more focus on the top of the wall structure, right? You can see this is what? The brick ledge, right? We talk about the shaded area is a brick ledge with 98.4, right? And the top of the wall is what? 100, right? You can see the 100. Right? Actually, the brick ledge dropped 8 inch, right? 8 inch from 100 to 98, 99.4, right? 99.4, right? It's dropped 8 inch. So there's a detailed section I showed you in a moment. So then you have those beam pocket. You can see you have multiple, right? all the beam pocket here, right? A lot of beam pocket. Some of the beam pocket you can see in this area is actually located in the shaded area. That means the shaded area is actually 8-inch lower than the top of the concrete wall, right? And you can see the beam pocket over here. At the bottom you didn't have, only I think on the north side of the building you have the brick ledge. On the other side I don't see that. You can see over here there's more beam pocket, right, along the way. Okay, that's pretty much tell you the concrete part, right? You have the wall, you have the footing, you have the floor stuff, right? I think that's pretty much cover that. You have the, gray beam, etc. So, is this doable in a week? Yes, for sure, right? No problem, right? Concrete part, you get this done this week, right? And next week you do another thing, right? But if you do everything in 1 week, I think it will be pretty tough to do, right? Pretty tough to do. All right. Okay, let's move on to the next one is S2.1. S2.1 is actually another topic we call the structural steel framing, right? The framing part. Well, when you start draw this, I'll strongly suggest first you create those gray line first. That's the first step you do, right? Level 1, create all the gray line, get this done, right? And you just ask me, with the scale, you just draw is exactly size. Right? Don't worry about scale, right? 9 feet 8-inch, 17 feet, and just get all the gray line done, right? Afterward, you can start draw the walls, the column, etc. Right? I think that makes your job easier. So after you get a concrete part done, of course you can continue working on your reinforcing, or you can start working on the structural steel. On the structural steel, of course, you have the major column first. By the way, I think all the column I can see by shape is actually HSS, right? Hollow section steel. And it's a tube. It's not a wide flange one, right? And you can see those are the tube. But you do have more tube, not only in the middle, but also on top of your wall edge, right? The wall edge over here, right? So you have all this tube, square, right? Square tube. So with those, I think that's the second step. I'm gonna draw all those columns, right? Afterward, I'm gonna connect them with my major beam. For example, the reason I call major beam, you can see the size of this, right? There's a beam from here to here, right? From here to here. Those are the major one, right? And from here. So after you get a major one done, you can take a look, there's some smaller one, right? There's some smaller one. So those are the major one. You can see actually this, including this one, is also a major. Because you can see the size, right? This is, for example, W18 by 40, right? And this is W14 by 34, and W16 by 57 is much bigger than the one in the middle, right? The middle we call junior beam. You can see 16 by 26, right? And 12 by 18 is much smaller, right? Much smaller. Not like the major one, right? We talk about this, right? I think all the major one is between the column, and all the junior one is actually within this box, right? Within this box, you can see it, right? So you can create those junior beam use what called beam system. Remember that? You can create a beam system, right? In a moment I will show one more time, right? I'll show you something. Okay, and that's pretty much, okay, there's some opening here. See that? One opening, two openings, three, four, right? And those are opening for the, remember the basement typically is a mechanical and, all the equipment, mechanical ductwork, plumbing stuff, electrical, for example, fire protection. Those are the chase, right? And they go from the basement to the upper level. So you can see, of course, these are the stairway, right? Those are the stairways. So they definitely have opening. There's some minor opening somewhere here. I'm not sure exactly what's that, but you can later on take a look at it, right? Here the elevator, right? Here the elevator. All right. The next thing is you go to second level, and you can see the right S2.2. Here the drive-through canopy, right? The drive-through canopy, and with these two columns supported, right? But this is also a structural steel part, right? Structural steel part. So you can see those similar. You can see those major beam, right? Then you have the junior beam in the middle. So this kind of stuff like that. Okay, I think this is pretty self-explained. Okay, there's just a little minor, canopy over here. You can see, right? See, this is entrance, right? So there's a small canopy over here, and this is another entrance. There's some, right, canopy over here. You can see there's a supported, right, and by the beam, right? So the three beams here as well. And then there's a roof. And roof part, you can see here this one is, instead of the junior beam, they changed to what? They changed to K-series joist, right? The K-series roof joist, right? Over here, right? K-series roof joist. And this is 6 of them. Right? You can create 6 of them one time. You don't have to draw one by one, right? And there's 7 of them, right? 5 of them, you can just do that. Top, right? Top floor 128, right? And top of the one, right? And that's the top of the beam is 128. And that's gave you some room for the roof, right, and adding some roof thickness. So that's pretty much the framing part, the structural framing, right? You can see this major one, and there's some. There's also some opening. I do not expect you to cut an opening like this, the most smaller one, right? I think this is for the roof. I'm not sure there's have a rooftop unit or not. Maybe a drainage or something, right? But you can see there's a different opening on different size mechanical unit, actually. Okay, they do have some couples of stuff, right? All right. So this one, if you want to see some of the footing, column footing, right, schedule, here is the schedule, right? You can see the first one tell you where we're located, right? A1, right, grade A and grade 1. Intersection, hollow section steel, 10 by 10 by half, right? And the footing size, as well as the footing reinforcing over here, right? So bottom and base plate elevation, right? One thing I want to just remind you, you can see not only we have those major rebar, right, like the footing or the slab, we also have the connection. For example, we have one connection, L shape, right here. We have another one. What's the size of this one? Is 2 feet, right? 2 by 2, number 4, right? This is the section view. If you take a look at the elevation, actually the floor view, right? The top view of this one, the wall, you can see there's also have a 2 by 2 corner rebar, right? 2 by 2 corner rebar. So of course you have those two, right? You can see those, right? And have those different somehow. So those are the corner rebar, right? Even though there's a masonry reinforcing, but I do not expect you to do any reinforcing in the masonry. So just ignore that. So for example, those second edge, I do not expect you to do that either, right? And you know, but if you want to do that, it's fairly easy. But you know, it's just extra steps. So yeah, forget about this, right? And then you, in your modeling, you need including some of the, you know, column plate, right? Okay, and those give you the more detail. You can see the plate, right? Those rebar, and also you see those rebar. And this is actually, I think, is underneath the drive-through. This is underneath the drive-through. Something my highlighter's gone. All right, just give me a second. All right, and that looks like. Feel free to ask any question. Right? So yes.
Oh, I was going to ask, for the footing, you said it was like asymmetrical. Was it symmetrical? Does that mean it's smaller than where the walls sit, or?
No, it's not just like typical when you add a footing. You know, your center line of your wall is the same as the center line of the footing, right? But you can take a look at this one. Is not the case, right? You can see your center line of the wall here, but your center line of the footing is way off, shifted, right? That's called eccentric, right? There's in your footing property, there's an eccentric value, typically 0. I mean, but you can change that. You can change that, then you can shift it either way, this way or that way, right?
Okay.
Yeah, either right or left. So by doing that, you can create a footing like asymmetric, you know, asymmetric, right?
Okay.
All right. Any other question? Okay, let's continue to talk about all right, detail, right? You can see those, right? Those are the, for example, dowel bar, right? You can see that in addition to the regular footing bar and column bar, you can also have this dowel bar, right? Like this, right? You can see here, you probably have a dowel bar go this way, right? In addition to some of those regular one, right? And this one is a step footing reinforcing, right? The step footing reinforcing, you can see, first of all, you have a big D. The big D means the depth, right? The step depth. We already know this is what? 2 feet, right? I remember when we reviewed the footing, you know, each step you drop 2 feet, right? 2 feet drop, and then you go to, then whenever you drop 2 feet over here, you need to have double the distance over there, right? That gives you the idea when you try to figure out the size of your step footing, because each 2 feet, then you need to have 4 feet over here, right? So that then you have the overlap, 1 foot overlap over here. You have 1 foot overlap here, right? So that's pretty much give you the, you know, when you try to figure out your shape of your step footing, they just say this is a typical, right? Typical means they don't have to just draw that deep. You know, they just expect you to, based on this, to figure out the shape, right? You know, it's not too bad, right? All right. And so let's see, you have some more detail. And this one is showing the elevator pit, but you really don't have to do that, right? So for example, like this one, and you really don't have to do the, you know, the elevator pit like this. Not elevator pit, I mean the equipment, right? You don't have to do the equipment. I don't think you need to do the second edge either, right? Just ignore that. Create a slab like this. It should be good enough. All right. That's okay. Yeah, you can see more like the pier, right? The foundation pier, those, right? The reinforcing detail. Well, it might look scary. Oh, so many bar we need to draw, right? But actually, rivet rebar modeling is pretty powerful. I think you will find surprise is actually you spend more time understand what's there and you spend less time modeling. Actually, when you model this, it's fairly fast because each time you just tell, okay, here's the stirrup, and I just tell the size and you know the on center number, then they create everything. So it's actually not that scary, right? But this are traditionally is a headache for contractor because, you know, wow, you know, there's, you know, in a manual way, think about it, you know, you're going to calculate this size, you know, this off center, you know, those, it takes forever to get a quantity right. But those, with those new modeling tools, this fairly fast and almost no error, right? And for those, you know, you can see this column sit on the wall, right? And this one gives you the detailed section of your brick ledge. Remember that? On your foundation wall, you don't have the detail, but here's the detail, right? 8-inch drop from the top of the wall, then you have the 6-inch, right? Because you have 4-inch veneer, right? Then you have a 2-inch gap, right? So that's pretty much your north side wall, right? North side wall. And then there are some connections we plan to talk about today. And that's the structural steel connections. We need to learn how to do that. In terms of the detail, I do not expect you, all right? For example, if I have this is either on the floor or roof, I cut an opening, I do not expect you to frame it, use all the angle steel to frame it exactly like this they show over here. Well, even in reality it is like this, but I do not expect you to do that. But if you like to do that, you're definitely welcome to do that, right? And not a problem. So, and this is actually the typical opening. You know, typically they use a lot of angle steel to frame, to frame this opening. All right, and let's move on to other part, right? So I think that's probably enough for me to go over with you about your project. One thing I always say that, but I want to say it again, is, you need to start this week, right? Start with this week. Ideally, you can break down the whole project part one into this week concrete, next week maybe reinforcing, or next week it just gets a structure steel done, right? So this is quite manageable. Next thing, let's move on to the rivet part. We start with a blank blank file. So what I plan to talk is the steel connection part, right? The steel connection part, and is this part, right? So you can see we have the steel connection and different, different type of connection, and even welded. You can see this is fitted steel plate, right? There's some plate, right? The center line, right, etc. Those top plate and actually bottom plate, and something like where's that? Right, like this one, right? You can see you have the plate, right? You have the plate, you have the anchor bolt, etc. Right, and you have this one too, right? You have the plate, you have the anchor J, the J-shape anchor bolt, right? All right. So let's see. Okay, first have this one, the blank one. Let's create a in any elevation. Let's create a third floor from using level. Yeah, and use a 10 feet floor height. Create a third floor. All right. Afterward, let's go to level 1. Well, you can create a couple of gray lines if you like to. For example, the reason is it's just easier for you to later on to create some of those columns and beams, right? You don't have to relabel them. In reality, you should have an alphabetical, you have a numerical, but let's not do too complicated. Let's do the 4 gray line each side, right? Each direction. All right. After you get this done, right, and then you can go to draw a wall and use box. Use the box method, right? And just connect this to. Right. So I create a grade and I draw the wall, and then I'm ready to go to my. Well, we can actually. Because we later on we're going to add a footing, so we need to make it a level 1. View depth change to deeper. View range change to maybe -10 or 6, either way. Apply. So okay, so later on when you draw that footing, you will see that, right? So let's go to level 2. Give you a few seconds. Right, let's go to level 2. Afterward, right? And then you can say, okay, let's add some column, right? Structure, a column, right? So before we adding anything, because we are try to make some connection, right? So in Revit, there's some legacy. So we'll make sure all your structural steel member need to be AISC 14.1, right? So anything if you're not at this type, you cannot make the connection. So if we go to load family, I'll show you. If you go to either column or beam or framing, anywhere, right, structural column and steel. If you go to any steel folder, there will be a folder called AISC 14.1 folder, right? The item outside this one possibly doesn't have the property satisfy AISC 14.1 requirement. So that means you couldn't add a section, a connection on that, right? So make sure you, if you see sometime have the issue, error message, or etc. So that most likely is because of this one. In the future time, I assume they probably will get rid of all those. Make sure they just have, one folder, all AISC compliance, right? Compliant. So, but looks like we are in good shape now, right? We go to structure, right? Column on level 2, right? And so, and we can start to, put some column, right? And if you want to make your view to front view so you can see better, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? I made this full column. And let's see, those 4 columns supposed to go from what? Level 1 to level 2, right? And also, remember we talked about, when you talk about the splice location, hidden column, it typically is higher than your floor level, right? Maybe 4 feet higher, right? Let's make that happen. So let's go to select all instance, and let's select all the column. Okay, our base level should be level 1, right? Our base level is level 1, and our base offset, let's assume like a 4 inch below, right? Not a 9 feet, right? 4 inch below level 1. So our top level should be level 2. Top offset should be what? 4, right? Because our splice should be taller, right? And so we kind of first make our column in the right spot, right? And then we say okay. So if you relate back to your drawing set, and I think you probably can see those from your here, right? You can see your column, right? HSS, right? You have a bottom plate, right? Elevation, right? And then you have some kind of all the way. I think this one, you probably don't have much splice, and I don't think it's probably just one column all the way up. I don't think you have so much splice. And just read the drawing a little bit more detail, right? But anyway, just in case you have splice, now we get this part done. Then let's get copy this one to the higher level, right? Then we continue to copy to clipboard, then paste to the level, selector level, right? Align to select level. So let's make the level 3. Say okay. You immediately see something. There's overlap, right? We need to deduct that part. So our base level 2, but our base offset should be what? 4 feet, right? Because we don't want to see the overlap. So 4 feet. On top level 3, that's fine, right? And so then apply that. So then you have those column, right? Let's go to level 2 to add our beam. Before we do that, we just go to level 1 to add our footing, right? Level 1, let's add a footing to all our column. So we go to our isolated, load our footing foundation, right? Structural foundation, load our rectangle footing. Open. 1, 2, 3. What's the warning sign to tell you? Okay, they move your footing to the bottom of your column. That's right? Because remember your column is 4 inch deeper, right? 4 inch deeper. So that's fine, right? And then we go to our level 2. Let's add some beam, right? Let's first add a major beam, right? And we can use simply 12 by 26. We make sure this is the same 14, yeah, 0.1, right? This one should be right. So we can add that, right? And let's add the beam. So if you couldn't see the beam, maybe make your view like a plan view, right? So you can see better. All right, and we don't have to add all of them, but just have a few boxes so we can have some idea. You need to at least have 2 boxes, right? Okay, I already more than 2 boxes, right? So now what I can do is I can simply go to structure, use what? The beam system, right? Remember that? So remember how you have those different stuff, right? Now we can use a beam system. Take a look. You have different choice, right? You can specify fixed distance or you can specify fixed number, right? Either way, right? Or you can specify maximum spacing, right? I think there's a lot of different way. You can, very convenient actually. So for example, if I want to just add a fixed number, right? I want to add 5 of them between this box, right? You can see I already have 5 automatically, right? And get done. So if I want to maximum spacing, for example, well, this is probably too big. Maximum spacing, let's see, we want to have 3, right? I try. Oh, I don't have another box. Right. Anyway, sketch. Maybe let's do a sketch then. Do a box sketch. Right? And you go to beam direction. You can go either way, or that's fine, right? That's good enough. Right, you have those. You can always change this, right? And I said, 3. And if it's too small, you say, okay, I want to change to 6. Change to 6. Right. Okay. So this way, if you go back to take a look at the drawing set we discussed a moment ago, you can see how easy we can create those, right? Those beams, right? And those, right? Quite easy to do, right? Just simply, create this big one, then you fill out this one with junior beam, for example, between this and this, I just chose what? Fixed number 3, right? And between those, right? And you can choose either way, right? Okay, then let's talk about connection, right? The connection part. So your system somehow should look like this, right? So far we just talked about how we create this framing, but we haven't talked about the detailed connection yet, like here, right? Like something right? Something more detailed, like showing on our drawing like this, right? And remember that those are missing, right? Those are missing. So that's what we're going to do today. And okay, and before you can do that, first of all, you want to make sure in your 3D view first, right? Make sure you are in 3D view. So you need to change your view property, and okay, you go to your property, there's a visibility, graphic override, here, you can see visibility graphic override, right? Click on edit. So we want to make sure our connection are visible. So we go to structural connection, anchor, bolt, right? Plate should be. We want to make that visible, and we just check everything underneath the connection part, right? Anchor, bolt, plate line, other plate, profile, reference symbol, right, etc. Then say apply. So okay, right? Apply, okay. Now we are ready to add the connection, and we can also see the connection, right? So click on the tab, structure, right? You have architecture structure. Underneath the structure tab, see there's a big connection icon. Underneath that, that's very tiny connection. There's a arrowhead, right? 45-degree arrowhead. Click on that. Then you should have a window pop up like this one. You guys have this one? No?
It's just taking forever.
Yeah. First time you use it will take a while. Yeah, just because this is a library. Yeah, that's right. This is library. Autodesk just added recent 2 years. So in the past, you won't have this. That's why a lot of the contractors switch to Tekla. You heard of Tekla. Tekla is also a BIM software, but specifically for the structural part. Still, because in the past, Rivet doesn't have a power function for reinforcing and connection. That's the new package it added. All right. So underneath that, there's so many different kind of connections. I'm not sure have you guys ever learned a steel design class or no? Okay, so I never took any steel design class either. So I guess if you truly understand what's exactly, what's kind of a connection you need to use, probably you need to take a class. But, for some basics, that shouldn't be a problem, right? We understand what's called base plate, right? Let's add that. And whatever, two base plate and no different, right? Just, one base plate. We also know what's called end plate, right? It's not a problem. Okay, column beam seat angle. So let's continue. We have a splice joint, right? Splice joint. Let's add one. We have a clip angle, right? We have the shear plate. We can give a try. Shear plate. Then we have a shear splice plate. I don't really know exactly what that means, but okay. All right. Oh, I think I understand, right? Because the picture shows something. All right, let's add a couple of this. Then we say, okay, okay. So before you add that, you need to have some kind of a basic knowledge. What kind of let's do the simple one first. Let's add a plate, right? Base plate on this column. So let's go to click on the big icon connection, select the base plate, and you can see the picture, right? You're going to have all kinds of base plate. So let's click on one column. Click on the footing, then enter. Yeah, you probably the computer going to spin for a couple seconds. Then you're supposed to see a box. Nothing happened. Oh, yeah, something happened, right? Here. I think you need to turn your view to the fine view, right? Turn your fine view. Yeah, turn your fine view, otherwise you won't be able to see that. Because it's a fine detail, you want to shade it better, right? So you have the first plate added, right? But what's the strange, right? You said, okay, this plate doesn't look like big enough, right? It doesn't look big enough. So we can make it bigger by click on that. See, now you can see there's a full anchor, right? And we go to modify parameter, right? There's a modify parameter. There's a bunch of parameter you can modify, right? Plate thickness, plate dimension, right? For example, the plate dimension, the projection currently is just quarter inch. That means is project over the edge of the column just 1/4. So if we change it to 2 inch, your plate will be bigger, right? You can see I'm getting bigger, right? I think that there's a lot of dimension you can change. Corner shape, right? For example, the first corner, second corner, and if you say you want to change the fillet, right? You're probably gonna see a lot of those. Right? So, see that? Okay, then you have those. There's a lot of different stuff, anchor and hole, right? Diameter of the anchor, etc., right? Length, for example, now it's 1 inch, right? If we change that to, let's see, 1/2 inch, actually, right? What's that? What's default? Default is length 1 inch. 1 foot, actually, sorry. Yeah, that's why. Okay, 1 foot. Maybe 1 foot 6 inch, right? You can see getting bigger, right? The washer plate, etc. So, yeah, you can add a lot of stuff, right? And you can see now getting deeper. So this is one example, and I think you need the take-home message is too, right? First of all, you know how to make a connection. Second, you can modify the parameter to make it more fit, right? Okay, then let's make another one called the beam to column connection, right? Let's make a beam to column connection. Zoom in a little bit so you can see better. So this time we go to select a connection again, structure, connection. Well, we want to try a couple of different ones, right? Let's try the clip angle, right? The clip angle is the most typical one, right? They select the clip angle. So we need to select two items this time. We need to use our control key, right? First you select the beam, the second we select the column, then we click on enter. All right, you can see there's an angle, clip angle created, connect these two items, right? So can we try a different one? Let's give a try, right? Let's see if we try connection, and this time let's try a end plate, right? End plate connection. So we go there, select this one, and select the column. Use the control key. Let's see how it works. Nothing happened?
That's a connection creation failed.
I have a warning line too.
Oh, that means this it probably means that you couldn't connect that way. So let's delete that one. suppose have a warning sign. So okay, yes. Okay, that means we couldn't make this connection here. Oh, okay. Let's try a different way then. Oh, where's all right. Okay, let's make a connection between the two bins, right? Sorry, two columns, right? So we suppose use a splice, right, to make the connection to that, right? So we go to connection. That should be splice joint, right? Splice joint. So click on splice joint, and you can see, right? The picture shows you that's the right one to choose. So we pick the top one, we pick the lower one, and enter. Okay, yeah, you see that work, right? So what you see is a splice connection between your top column and the lower column. So click on this connection and go to modify parameter. Right. From here, just as your plate, you can customize. You can customize this one. You can see the type of splice by default is what? You connect both web and flange, right? That means you have not only have a web connection over here, you also have the two sides of flange connection. You can see, this side you only see the bolt, right? So you basically have both connection and the flange and the web, right? But typically you say, well, I don't think I need that much. I think I just need the web, right? Then you just have the web, right? So you can also say, all right, let me take a look at the other part, web. In fact, click on web and web plate. You can see web plate. You can see one side. You can also make both sides. By default, it's both sides, right? That means you have two plates on each side of your web, right? And if you go to turn around on the other side, you will see the same way, right? Also, the connection, you can see by default, you have one bolted and the top one is welded, right? But if you want to make both bolted, right, then you can see they are bolted, right? Or you can make them all welded and you don't have any non-bolted anymore, right? So, or you can switch, one bolted, all right? Or you can say, okay, I wanted the other one, right? Welded and bolted, top one welded, bottom one bolted, right? There's a lot of ways you can make the connection, right? All right, that gives you some idea about those connections. You can see the key point, you have to make the right connection. For example, we want to make the beam-to-beam connection. You can do the same thing, right? You can do the beam connection. You can make either, I think we can make clip angle, right? I can make a clip angle looks like in good shape, right? And I'm not sure the end plate, probably not. Shear plate, shear plate will probably okay too. Let me try a shear plate. Connect this one and this one. Yep, it works, right? You can see I add a shear plate, connect this two. You of course can also add an angle plate like this, right? All right, I'll stop here and